Are you ready to think big and act bold? Then you are in the right place. This is Innovative Entrepreneurs, a podcast that will bring you the stories, insights, and tips from some of the most successful and innovative entrepreneurs in the world. I am your host, Erica Bailey, and I am here to help you start, scale, and sustain your own entrepreneurial journey. Let's get started. Today, we are joined by Dean Croshere. Croshere? Oh, I had this 2 seconds ago. He is the COO of Geocene. Dean is a standout figure in the entrepreneurial world, known for his dynamic approach in leadership and his commitment to personal growth. It's perfect for this podcast, right? His work at Geocene is not just about business, right? It's about facing our biggest fears head on, from health crises to climate change. Dean believes in the challenges we encounter professionally are deeply intertwined with our personal development. He advocates integrating psychological principles into business, ensuring that emotion, intelligence drives success. Get ready to be inspired. We have a leader who's changing the game or changing minds. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dean.
Thank you, Erica. I'm really excited to see where this conversation goes.
Oh, fantastic. So I was looking at your website, and before we jump into all the questions, what is Geocene? And am I saying that right?
You are saying that right. Yeah, Geocene, Era of the Earth. Yeah. Geocene used to be a consulting company. We did engineering consulting for startups that wanted to build a device that connects to the internet. We connected water wells to the internet in Africa. So if they ran out of gas or something, they knew which water well to go refuel. So many options here. I'm blanking which one to jump into. We did. Okay.
Let's just stop.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was a
weather station
first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they need to hey, this thing needs to connect to the internet, needs to connect to the internet better. We had a bunch of great engineers and we were really loving that work. Well, we were loving the revenue and we were good at that work.
There you go.
I was noticing that we were having these conversations and we spent a lot of time, complaining that all of us were working on different projects or we didn't, have ownership of the projects because we were consultants, right? We built what they asked us to.
Yeah.
And they were great companies doing great things, but I think a lot of us were getting to a point where hey, we want to own a thing. We want to really do something that we believe in for ourselves.
Yes.
And, I was listening to us complain about this for a while. And I was also doing a lot of this personal growth work in my own life. And I was starting to realize that this was really relevant to our work. And I started to push and say hey, we should really be thinking about what we are doing, right? We have an opportunity to do what we want to do with our lives. And so we did. We started to have a lot of conversations okay, we want to become a product company. We want to build a thing. But what is the thing? And around that same time, an opportunity arose and we were ready to jump into it. My CEO and business partner's PhD work was in this cook stoves world because 3 billion people around the world do all of their cooking on what is essentially a campfire indoors. And that leads to 3 million deaths per year. That's more than AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined.
Because they don't have the resources to cook properly.
Because, they don't have the resources to have a cook stove. Yeah. And it's tradition, right? This is the way it's always been done. And it's huge. And it's not just, premature deaths. There's also low birth weight babies and even deforestation problems. And these inefficient fires let off a lot of carbon that they don't need to. A more efficient fire burns the wood more effectively, turns more of it into heat, releases less CO2 and CO2 equivalents. Okay. That then affect climate change. And it turns out that all of these indoor cook stoves release more CO2 into the atmosphere than the aviation industry. So it's this massive
surprise on my face. I literally am shocked.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. And no one knows about it. If my business partner, Danny, didn't tell me about it, I wouldn't know, right? I've heard about water problems. I've heard about all kinds of political challenges, but here's this problem that is solvable with actually very low tech, right? A good cook stove is very easy to make. It's very cheap to make. It's very cheap to distribute. But actually, it turns out it's actually kind of hard to know if people use a better cook stove.
Okay. Yeah.
It's pretty easy. Like, okay, I made a cook stove. I'll give you a cook stove. And then did it break? Did they not use it? Are they still using the other one? And that's the key piece of this opportunity that we found. And actually, some of Danny's PhD work is that the carbon markets have come into this space, right? Because I talked about the CO2 being released in the aviation industry, and there are carbon markets, right? If you hear a company like Microsoft or Shell say, we're going to be carbon neutral by the year 2030, the way they do that is by buying carbon offsets, right? I release this much CO2, but I have reduced CO2 somewhere else. And so I'm neutral.
Okay.
And so the fastest growing segment of this market was cook stoves because it's so cheap, so easy to do, but there was no validation. So companies were just buying cook stoves and putting them out, and they were incentivized to buy the cheapest possible cook stove because they get the carbon credits for distributing a cook stove, no proof that people were using it. And there's this heartbreaking story of a woman who lived in a village in Africa who was like, yeah, I got a cook stove and I loved it and I used it all the time. And then my kids sat on it. It's like, of course, right? Kids sit on stuff. They break stuff all the time. And that woman now doesn't have a cook stove and nobody's going to give her a new cook stove because they don't know she doesn't have a cook stove. And there's carbon offset is still being given for that cook stove that's no longer offsetting carbon, right? So all the incentives are misaligned, and there's this massive problem that's not being solved. Well, your Microsoft or Apple or whatever is still saying, hey, we're carbon neutral, but they're not actually offsetting the credits. Major article came out in Nature in January of this year that said, hey, we think these carbon credits are being overstated tenfold.
Okay.
And so the market just went nuts, right? Like, oh my gosh, all these carbon credits that we think we're buying aren't being there. And like, how are we going to resolve this problem? And that's what we do. We validate carbon credits. We build sensors that you can put on a cook stove. And when it breaks or isn't used, we can say, hey, that one's not being used. Go fix it or replace it. Or at the very least, don't give the carbon credits to that cook stove. And so that's the world we're in and the world we're pivoting to. And so now all of a sudden we have this product that we want to make. It's addressing a major world problem that we care about.
Yeah.
And we have control over it. And it's like, oh, we had set these intentions ahead of time. We had said, this is what we want. And then this opportunity arose and we were able to tackle it because we had spent the time and energy talking about what was important to us as a team.
Okay. So you said you have access to it, right? Is that what you said? You have control over the device or something? Is that?
Well, we invented the device. We built it.
Of course.
We're a team of engineers, right? So building a thing is easy.
Would you share with us like a pivotal moment that led you to like pivot your focus towards addressing this global health and climate change crisis?
A pivotal moment. I mean, certainly the pivotal moment was when we found out about this paper. We found out about it ahead of time because that's the world that Danny lives in. But it was more gradual than that. Listening to myself, right? I was watching my body change during our meetings over time. And that's a big part of my thing is paying attention to my body. I've learned that there's some basic biology, human biology that I rarely hear people talk about. And that's sort of the chemicals that govern our bodies. There's some part of our brain that reacts to stimulus and releases chemicals into our body.
Okay.
And the lights are dark. It's starting to get dim. It releases melatonin so we can go to sleep. There's something that's threatening. It releases adrenaline so we can get ready to fight or flight. If something feels great, it releases oxytocin, right? These are the chemicals that our brain releases into our body without us knowing. There's no like, hey, I've released this chemical awareness. The only way we can know that our body has released chemicals is to pay attention to what we're feeling. Is my heart rate beating? Is there tension in my chest? Is there tension in my stomach? Are my arms like, am I making fists? Am I tired? And do I feel like I don't want to be here? Do I feel like I want to make this problem go away at any cost? Like these are all chemical reactions that are happening in my body that are telling me how my brain is reacting to a stimulus. And so I was noticing in meetings, I was feeling withdrawn. I was feeling tired during meetings. Like before a meeting would happen, I was kind of, oh man, I'm not excited about this. And I was kind of wondering like, why? Like I'm the COO of this company. I have major power over where the company is going. And my body is telling me like, no, something is wrong. And so I started to pay attention to like what people were saying in meetings that would cause reactions in me. And over time, it was like, oh, okay, it's this distance between us. And like, I'm not hearing my colleagues excited about work. Like, I've got this task. I'm going to get it done. Like, hey, we're delivering this. Cool. Like everybody was kind of at like a medium. Right? Nobody's upset. Nobody's sad, but nobody's excited. And like, let's do this. Like, this is cool. And I think I was just bored. and
I love that. Total transparency right there. Wow.
Yeah.
You go. So your colleagues you're seeing all of your colleagues kind of feeling the same way that you are, right?
Well, I was perceiving that.
Yeah, perceiving. I guess what I'm finding out is leadership often requires a balance, right, of hard skills and personal growth.
Yes.
So how do you think by kind of seeing that and quote unquote waking up to what your body is telling you and what your mind is telling you, can you discuss how this balance may have like influenced your approach?
Okay, so hard skills and personal growth, a balance. Hard skills can be a handful of different things, particularly in leadership, right? Like a hard skill can be, here's how I write a Python program or use Excel to build a model. But a lot of leadership hard skills, like the ones they teach us in business school, are playbooks. They're like, in the past, this sort of behavior can increase the odds of success for a company. And I think a lot of people are looking for playbooks, right? This worked for Elon Musk, so maybe it'll work for me. This worked for Steve Jobs, so maybe it worked for me. A lot of business school is like, it's cases, right? Here's how this worked for major corporation A, and here's what this leader in this corporation did. And then, the class gets around and talks about it. Harvard Business School is famous for only using cases in every single classroom. Most other schools are a little more, here's a textbook sort of learning. And I guess I am starting to come to the belief that even those hard skills are really just somebody else's soft skills. And the real strength is in being aware of myself and what I want and paying attention to what my colleagues are saying and doing. And that maybe it is all soft skills at some point. It's just adjusted soft skills. It's soft skills based in awareness of others. I wouldn't just jump into this without any experience or any learning. Those are just advice, just tips.
So what it sounds like to me is that you're literally using science to understand human behavior.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So why do you think that positivity barrier in success?
Well, positivity. So I used to work in Thailand. I ran a factory in Thailand. And one of the things that happens a lot in Thailand is that white people get scammed. I got scammed frequently. And we pay more for things, and like that's the way it is there. And so I spent a fair amount of time dealing with that, right? The sort of the righteous indignation, right? How can I get a worse deal than somebody else? Somebody else that doesn't look like me, right? Like I'm a white guy in Thailand, right? I'm running around. I've got this job that pays me some major multiple of what every single Thai person I was interacting with that scammed me made. And I am upset that I'm, getting scammed by them. And I think I came to be okay with that it's my job to show up the best I can and take responsibility for myself. And if somebody else scams me, well, they're an asshole.
They're an asshole. Yeah.
And like, I don't want to live my life not trusting people. I don't want to live my life so afraid that I'm going to get scammed that I miss opportunities on the upside.
Whoa, that is beautiful.
The part of me that wants a particular outcome. Okay. And there's the part of me that wants to stay present with myself. When you were describing what you want, right? I want this perfect day. I want this thing. Like, it's going to be exciting. Like, that was sort of an outcome that you were trying to create. Buying this thing is a great way to get there. But I think it's easy for a lot of us. I certainly find myself in this situation a lot. Like I said, I've been scammed many times in a certain context. I want to the listeners here who don't know me at all, right? I don't get scammed.
No, we all, there's no judgment here.
I want this outcome. And so I'm just going to try to make that outcome happen. And I stopped listening to evidence against that outcome happening. And I stopped asking questions. There's actually, I kind of want to go to on a little pivot here. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah, let's do this.
Okay. There's a YouTube channel, Veritasium. Are you familiar with it?
No. Spell it.
It's led by an engineer. I'm blanking on his name. But he has this great episode where he goes and asks a bunch of people a question. I want to ask it to you, but I'm just going to introduce it. The point of this exercise is to understand the way that we try to jump to a conclusion. I'm going to give you 3 numbers. And then what I want you to do is to give me 3 more numbers and ask 3 different numbers, and then tell me what you think my pattern is, like why I created this pattern. Okay?
Okay, let's do this. Am I allowed to write things down and take notes?
Yeah, go for it. Okay. So the numbers are 2, 4, 8.
Okay. And so now I try to guess what your pattern is. Yeah,
give me 3 numbers and then try to guess what the pattern.
16. Oh. 2.
They don't have to be the next ones in the pattern.
Okay. 16, 33, and 47.
Okay, that fits the pattern.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Okay. No, it doesn't. Help me understand how that fits the pattern.
Well, you can guess 3 more numbers if you want, or we can just skip to the end.
Okay. No, I'll guess 3 more numbers.
You guess any numbers you want that you think will help you understand what my pattern is.
Oh my goodness, I'm so scared. Why am I so scared? I'm 82, 64, and 111. More? I gotta do more?
One more number. 3 numbers.
One more number. Okay. 333.
That fits.
Why? Just because you say so? It's like the...
No, I've got a pattern. I can still straight from this video. I'm not making this up.
It's just like that. I'm in my head. I'm thinking of that Adam Sandler movie, the kid that he adopts or whatever, and then they're playing poker, and it's like, I win. It's like, well, why do you win? Because I say I win. So sorry, that came through my mind. Okay, so help me.
So I'm impressed by the numbers that you choose. You broke out of the pattern that he established, but the rule is just the numbers increase.
Okay.
There's 3 numbers. Each one is bigger than the last.
Okay.
And the thing is that people will often, you say 2, 4, 8, and people are like, all right, 3, 6, 12. Right. Like I'll follow the same pattern. I think it's doubling. Right. So I have come to a conclusion already. And now I'm going to look to validate the conclusion that I created. Right. And when you said, no, you don't. Right. When you thought that you were breaking the pattern, mm-hmm. and when I said you didn't break the pattern, that was wrong. So at least you took the wrong step. You looked for a no, which was good. That's what we should do in trying to figure out what's going on in the world, right? Look to not validate our assumptions, because that is a very common human behavior, which requires you to know what your assumptions are. And so I was talking about playbooks earlier, right?
Okay, yeah. Help me out with that. There we go. Coming back to it.
So I was talking about playbooks earlier, right? Like, we have been given these playbooks. This is how the world works, right? Trying to pretend like business school has taught me how to run a business, but there is no way to run a business. There isn't a hard skill. Right. It's not like math, where this is how it works, or how to write a program, which, there's more than one way to write a program, but usually, engineering is pretty linear. Where running a business is very soft and fluffy. And if we don't understand the playbooks that we're playing by, it's very easy to get scammed. It's very easy to miss what's coming and what's happening, because we're not looking for it, and we're not looking for the no's. Okay. So when my team wasn't engaged, right? But we were doing it, we were making money, our revenue was going up, we're following all the business things, but what were the no's? Like, what was missing from this pattern? Like, what were the assumptions I was making that I was missing what was happening with my team?
Boom. Like,
right?
boom. You just blew my mind. But it makes total freaking sense. Freaking sense. So
Yeah.
I broke the mold. What you're saying is I'm unique in picking my numbers.
You did a good job there. I was impressed. I am impressed.
I have no idea what the pattern is other than they are moving forward, but I messed that around because I chose 64 after 82.
Well, you did. You said 82, 64.
I did 82, 64, 111, and then...
Oh, I misheard you. You actually...
I did. I went backwards.
My mistake. Your first one did not follow the pattern.
Well, no, my first one... So you gave me 2, 4, 8.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Then I did 16, 33, 47.
Yeah.
So how does that follow the pattern?
You said 16, 43, 37?
16, 33, 47.
Yeah, each one is bigger than the last.
Okay, so that's the pattern. Okay. Then I did 82, 64, 111, and 30.
That does not follow the pattern. I was wrong. That was my mistake.
I'm an enigma.
You are an enigma. I was so excited for you to follow the pattern that I didn't even.
I had a feeling when I wrote the 64, when I wrote that, I'm like, no, this isn't right. Like, it didn't look right to me. And I think that's why I gave you 4 numbers instead of 3 at that time, because I didn't like 64. And so I just kind of pretended like it wasn't there. I did my 111 and 333.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'm an enigma.
You're an enigma. You did it. You did a great job of busting out of that. If you had been on his show, you would have. I
would have done well.
You would have done well. Yeah.
Oh, I'm already. No,
you're on your own show, so there you go.
Oh, well, you know what? I started this because I wanted to. Being a business owner is freaking hard. All right. I started this business with my husband when we were young. Our kids were young. I just got my master's in business with organizational behavior. I could not find a job. It was 2007, 2008 market crash. I lived in Arizona. The whole world was upside down. Mastered prepared individuals were flipping burgers. Right. So I'm like, no, I didn't go through this and go to school and raise my kids with my husband for me to make $17 an hour flipping burgers. So we took what he learned and what I learned and we said, okay, we're going to do this, man. And we made it happen, but it's not an easy thing. There is no guide to being a good business owner. There is no guide to, when you fail, what do you do? Right. So that is what I'm hoping to accomplish here, is that I'm building a guide for other young entrepreneurs or business owners, and maybe those who are just struggling, so that they can learn from all of our mistakes, how we fail forward, what we've learned, and how, we can provide value to other people. So that's really what this is all about. It's not meant to be a show. It's meant to just drive value to other people. All right, let's jump into some other things. Okay, emotional awareness.
Yes.
It has played a significant role in your decisions and your strategy.
Yes.
So talk to me. I have something in my head that I think you're going to say, but talk to me. Give it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about my body, right? And there's 3 tools here that there's a therapy technique called emotionally focused therapy. And in that, they talk about the 3 parts of emotional awareness. And one is the body. Like, what are the actual physical sensations that I'm experiencing? And 2 is the named emotion. So, like, I would describe this as anger, or I would describe this as fear. And there are some great tools for understanding what these emotions are. Brene Brown has Atlas of the Heart. Fantastic. And then there's the story, which is the message I have tied to all of this. I am angry because Frank forgot to deliver, this thing to the client on time, and now things are going badly, right? Like that's the story. And then my heart is beating and I'm tense and like I'm a little narrow tunnel vision, and anger is the name. Okay. So like this is what is going on in me. And I know that I am responsible for myself. I only control myself. I don't control Frank. I have actions that can influence Frank, but I don't control him. And I can't make the problem go away. I can't control the outcome. I have actions that can influence the outcome with the client. You know, I can ask Frank to write an apology or whatever I want to do. But the first thing I need to do is take responsibility for my emotions and my stories. And so, okay, I notice that I'm angry. I notice that I have anger. I notice I have tunnel vision, right? Tunnel vision is something that happens with adrenaline. I know that when I have adrenaline, I am not in my prefrontal cortex where I make good decisions. I know that almost anything I say or do isn't going to help resolve the situation in the long term. And so now when I take responsibility for myself, I can start to take deep breaths, get some observational distance, be like, okay, Frank, like, I understand this is coming. Thank you for talking to me. Give me a minute. I'm going to think about how we should respond to this. And then do a meditation, do a journal, whatever my technique is for getting control of myself, bringing my heart rate back down, getting to a more calm state where I can now re-engage the part of my brain that makes good decisions so that I can make a good decision.
Okay. So body. How does my body feel?
Yes.
Okay, so right now, my body feels tingly.
Yes.
Okay. My emotion is excitement and just joy. Okay.
Where do you feel the tingly?
Down my arms.
Down your arm. Ooh. Okay.
It's like here and down my arms. Like I want to go like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do.
My emotion is joy and excitement. My story tied to all of this is when I get excited about something and I feel joy and happiness, my physical body reacts in a response that identifies what I'm feeling.
Yeah, but I guess the story would be more like why do you feel the tingles? Like, I mean, you're describing. Yeah.
So why I feel the tingles is because I feel this is an awesome conversation. You have a lot to offer and you have some seriously cool energy. So when I surround myself with people who I feel are the bomb, I get excited.
Great. Yes. That's exactly it.
Science to understand human behavior. That's literally what you're doing.
The next steps here, right? Like, cool. This is like, obviously I feel validated and that's wonderful. And like, I can go to what I'm feeling here, but like sticking with you for a second, that's your patterns, right? Yes. Like your life, your experiences, the ways that you were taught, the things that happened from you were very tiny, maybe even before you were born, right? You've built patterns so that when A happens, B is going to happen in the future. You have an exciting conversation. A, something good is going to happen that you want in the future. B, right? And so your body is excited about the future. And that's great. We want these feelings, right? Like we kind of pursue these feelings, but we can recognize this is a pattern that your body is doing without your conscious engagement, right? The storyteller, the prefrontal cortex that's like driving this bus is just sort of like, oh, I'm excited. Good. Like, let's kind of get more of that. Right. But like the brain in the back is doing all the like pumping of the chemicals that are causing the tingles that feel great. And so we can be aware like, oh, this is good, but maybe there's risk here.
Oh.
Right. This is like, oh, okay. I like this conversation and where this is going, but it is entirely possible to get over my skis and take a risk that could get me scammed.
Okay.
Not to like stop the bus. We don't have to slam on the brakes, but we can be aware. Oh, I feel the tingles in my shoulders. sometimes when this happens, I'm getting too excited, right? I'm looking forward to this outcome. And so I want it to come and it's going to come and I know that I'm excited, but like, okay, that's great. I love this feeling, but what's going to happen next? I don't actually know.
My positivity hinders my success because I'm not understanding what my body is telling me, and I'm not taking a moment to recognize that I don't have to react immediately when I'm feeling this.
Yes.
I need a second. I need to enjoy the feeling.
Yes.
But then I need to actually look at the whole picture.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I like it when I'm right. Okay. Do you think conflict is important in the workplace? Or do you think we want conflict out of the workplace 100%?
No, of course not. One of my favorite books, Crucial Conversations, by Carrie Patterson and like 4 other people. They say that the key factor in how impactful a conflict is the time between when the conflict happens and when it's talked about.
Okay, say that one more time. I was writing down the book.
So, yeah, Crucial Conversations, Carrie Patterson. Okay. The key factor that they found in how impactful or potentially destructive a conflict is the amount of time between when the conflict happens and when it's talked about. So if there is a conflict and those two people never talk about it for years, it becomes a big problem. But if there's a conflict and they talk about it a couple hours later, it's not that big a deal. Oh, I was thinking this. I'm sorry, I misunderstood, or I didn't hear you. And then like you can make the problem go away real fast. Yeah. And so if there is a situation in a company where people aren't fighting, there is conflict. They're just not talking about it. So everybody's sitting at their desk seething about how much that other person sucks instead of just figuring out the problem and moving on. Now, I want to caveat right here. Okay. It doesn't mean every single conflict that comes up must be fought about right away. Not immediately, right? Blood's still high. We haven't checked our bodies. We haven't figured out our anger, right? We still have to get that observational distance and figure out what's important to us and come back calmly to talk about the problem. And it's okay to take a break in the middle. Like, ooh, okay, there is actually a big conflict here. Let's come back to this tomorrow. Like, I notice my body is getting amped. I notice my anger. I notice my fear. I notice these things coming up in me. Let's talk about this tomorrow.
Okay. I think when you can do it that way, because that makes absolute sense, I think when you can talk about it, it actually opens opportunities that we all didn't see before, right? Maybe we're conflicting over ideas, but maybe the problem is that we're not combining our ideas.
Maybe.
But we won't know unless we talk about it.
Yeah. And maybe our ideas aren't actually different. Maybe we have the famous thing of, 4 people trying to describe an elephant, and one person describes the trunk, and one person describes the leg, and one person describes the side. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're both maybe one person is describing a trunk and the other person is describing a house. Also possible. Won't know unless you fight and have the actual difficult conversation.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So, is there a difference between assertiveness and aggression?
Absolutely. So aggression is a form of manipulation to try to make a particular outcome happen. Okay. And so that's saying, I want, let's keep it in the workplace. Let's stick with this Frank thing. Like, I want Frank to finish this report by the end of the day on Friday. And it's not even I want Frank to finish the report. I want Frank to deliver the report. I want him to win the sale. And so I am going to get mad at Frank when he's not getting it done, when it's not working. Or I am going to, in some other way, try to get Frank to do what I want him to do. I'll create some competition between him and somebody else. I will cut him down. I'll say something like, I don't believe you can do this, or something to like get him to like do what I want him to do. Whereas assertiveness is simply asking for what you want and being okay when the answer is no. And being okay is an emotional thing, right? That's how my body reacts. So I can ask for something, and if Frank says, I don't think I can get it done by the end of the day on Friday, if I get angry, I'm not being assertive. Like, it doesn't even matter what I do. If I'm not okay, he's going to see that on my face. He's going to see that in my reaction. The next week, I might like get angry and not tell him. This is actually passive manipulation. Is to get angry and not tell him and just kind of storm around, right? That's passive manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, hey, I actually notice I'm angry at that, Frank. Like, okay, do what you can. I'm going to go take responsibility for my emotion, right? I'm going to go deal with that. Like now I'm taking responsibility for myself. Frank knows I really want this. And then if I get angry with him the next week for not doing it, if I'm shouting at him in my office, I actually haven't taken responsibility for myself. But if the next week in my office, like I'm cool, I'm like, hey, I saw you worked really hard. You did good work. And, we'll deal with the client because it didn't get done. Like maybe Frank is a great worker and he does better work when he's not being shouted at and he trusts that he has the room to think. Maybe he needed the weekend thing. I don't know. Like I need to listen to Frank. I need to know what he's thinking and I need to take responsibility for my emotions and just ask for what I want this done by this date. You can. And he might say no. And if he constantly says no and he constantly can't get things done and he still does bad work, maybe he's the wrong person and I can, all options are still available to me. I don't need to coddle him, but I need to ask what I want and then take responsibility for my emotional response.
It's so interesting because this is literally happening in my life right now.
Yeah.
I would not have recognized if you didn't explain that because there's a different way of doing things. And now I understand to listen to my body before I respond. I want to avoid the aggression and be more assertive, but starting with kindness.
Yes.
Wow.
And clear is kind, right?
Yeah, it's clear is kind. You're right.
Yeah.
Because then if they follow through and they meet those benchmarks and they feel so good about themselves, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I just did that.
And not asking is also passive manipulation, right? Like, I don't think Frank can do this by Friday, so I'm not even going to ask him to do it. That's not even giving him a chance.
Oh.
Right? Like, that is a hard thing for a lot of leaders to do, is to ask, knowing the answer is no. But I want it. And if I ask, and if I want it and don't ask, I could even resent him for not doing it, even though he didn't ask.
But if you do ask, and they just completely ignore you.
Yeah. And you can have a conversation about that.
I'm angry right now. I'm clenching my hands. I'm grinding my teeth. And that I can tell that I am angry at myself.
Ooh.
I'm not listening to myself and I'm not listening to her.
Okay.
And that's where the conflict is arising. And we are both responding with aggression rather than assertiveness. So I don't even know what the problem is at this point. It's just like
just reacting.
Exactly. So
can we jump on something? Is that alive for you, this conflict? Like, can you feel it?
It's happening right this moment.
Okay, great. Can we? Are you okay? Can we do an exercise?
Let's do it.
Okay. So dive in. Like, where are you feeling this?
Well, depending on if you believe in all the different chakras, but my feelings are in my brain.
It's great.
Okay.
In your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, in my heart, in my stomach.
In your stomach.
Yeah.
What does that feel like in your heart and your stomach?
What does that feel like in my heart and my stomach when I'm angry?
Right now, what are you feeling
right now?
Heart? Yeah.
I feel my heart racing a little bit.
Yeah.
My stomach feels tight.
Yeah. Okay. Let's if you let that sensation, take a couple deep breaths, feel that tension, just sort of let it fill you for a second. And now if you ask yourself, how old is that sensation? Like, is there an age of the person that's feeling that anger?
It's a very old sensation when it comes to that individual.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that,
it's probably older than that individual.
yeah,
It's probably from your past.
this feeling of this tightness and this anger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I was a very
Triggering.
spoiled girl. And so when I didn't get what I want, I would clench up.
Mhm. Yeah. So that little girl, that pattern, remember I talked about how that pattern starts at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
That pattern was triggered in this conflict now, and you just got right back to that girl. And so that tension is what's coming out right now. That anger of that little girl is what's getting thrown at your employee. And to be fair, your employees doing the same thing back to you, right? These
Exactly.
are children fighting.
So how do you, okay, I'm asking you how you fix this, but you literally gave us the answers. Understanding our body. How does our body feel? Understanding my emotions. How am I feeling about this? And what is the story behind what I'm feeling right now? And if we continue to use that pattern, slow down a little bit, take a few deep breaths and try to figure out, is this the reaction I want to have?
Yes.
Is this the feeling I want to feel? Because
Yes.
I have control over how I'm feeling and how I'm responding to those feelings.
Yeah, well, you don't have control over how you're feeling, right? Your brain's releasing those chemicals, but at least I'm responsible for them.
Okay. I'm tracking. So the brain just says, hey, forget you. I really don't.
That heart racing, stomach turning, like that's adrenaline. Your
Yeah.
brain is pumping that for you.
Yeah.
And all you can do as a storyteller driving the wheel is like, okay, this is happening. I'm not going to be driven by that chemical. I don't need to fight a lion, right? Like that's what the chemical's there for.
Is that fight or flight?
That's fight or flight, right? I don't need to fight a lion right now. I'm just in an office. I am totally safe.
And I don't want to be angry.
You don't want to be angry.
I don't want to be angry.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually again, I got the tingles and the smiles and the joy. Like I feel joy. And the story is that I've learned how to understand my body.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy.
Woo!
This is fun. I could do this with you all day.
Yeah, isn't that great? I love this stuff.
This is great. Okay. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs or business owners who want to lead with both expertise and emotional intelligence? Or do you need one before the other?
Go to therapy.
Yeah.
That's what this, I mean, all this stuff is therapy, right? Like that's the, understand your stories, understand your patterns. The only way that any entrepreneur is going to know how they show up as a leader is to understand what happened to them as a child. And a therapist is going to help you unpack that.
Wow.
Because as we just found out, even a simple conflict with an employee can bring you back to your childhood.
Okay, but I mean, I agree. Go to therapy. I strongly believe in personal development. So whether it's reading or listening to audiobooks or being part of a class, so I mean that can also be your therapy if you're listening to the right stuff. But I 100% agree. In my opinion, you need the emotional intelligence to become an expert. So
about that. Emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman is what I'm holding up for people listening.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so marketing your business. I'm a marketer. This is my job. What do you think has been like the best marketing campaign or like the best social media or video content? Like what works best for you?
For us, it's word of mouth.
That's the best form of marketing ever.
Yes. And also one of the most frustrating because I have so little control over it.
There's no measurables.
There's no measurables, right? I have spent a lot of money on marketing campaigns and gotten literally zero response from it. And it's all just word of mouth. People who know us know that we're great, and people who don't aren't going to believe that we're great from an ad campaign. And that's the world I'm in, right? High dollar value, have been in, I should say. The consulting business is what I'm talking about here.
Yes, it's a different audience entirely.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the networking. It's the getting to know people. It's you have to build the trust from them. They're not buying your service. They're buying you. They're buying the thought of you really being authentic and being able to communicate and actually care, genuine care, transparency. If you are able to do that and get that out there in the world, people are going to become brand ambassadors no matter what. They feel like they can trust you and that you genuinely give a shit about them. All right, last question, and not everybody likes this one, but who would you say is the most innovative entrepreneur or most influential person in your life?
Ooh. I mean, the first thing isn't an entrepreneur. It's an author. David Rico. He wrote How to Be an Adult. And I kind of use it as my Bible. Like I read that book all the time. I flip through it. I have this very worn copy. And it's a handbook. I just kind of flip it open, and any given sentence sort of like helps me reframe what I'm reading or thinking about or dealing with right now.
I'm seriously getting that one. Okay.
He also wrote How to Be an Adult in Relationships. Also a great book. Same author, but not the book I'm talking about.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that we drop some of those in the show notes because these are good suggestions, and I'll definitely be picking these up. I'm an audiobook type of girl, so I hope those are awesome. I don't have time right now. I should make it.
Emotional Intelligence, great audiobooks. How to Be an Adult. It's a handbook. You want the paper.
Where's your book?
Where's my book? I actually...
come on, you need a book.
I'm taking a retreat this weekend to do some writing. We'll see how it comes out.
You need a book.
This
is brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. And I would not expect this emotional intelligence to come from an engineer.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm an MBA, but I work.
Okay. Well, who works with engineers? I mean, I would not expect this. So I'm very, very impressed by you. And I'm so grateful that you joined me today. Like, this has been the coolest conversation. I think this has actually been the longest conversation too. And I hope they don't cut anything. How can people find you? And do you want to be found?
Do I want to be found? Geocene.com. GEOCENE.com. That's my company. You can find me through that. The contact us form actually goes to me. So you can reach out to me there. And maybe by this time this drops, I'll have a book. In this case.
Oh, no, I don't know. It'll drop pretty quick. So
okay, there we go.
I'm start writing. I'm starting. I've got my outline. I have what my chapters should be.
There you go. That's the first step. I've got that too. I've got several of those. I haven't actually written any words in that.
And right now I have this like feeling because now I'm nervous, and I have fear because I know I need to do it, but I don't know how to do it. And so I'm like,
So I'm going to ask how old that fear is.
9th grade.
9th grade?
When I didn't get invited to be on the cheerleading team.
Oh.
Right? I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this win. Like imposter syndrome.
Oof.
I do some mind power shit too, man.
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
you are okay. You were okay then. You're okay now.
I am okay.
You're gonna be okay.
Every freaking day is a beautiful day because I'm here.
Every day is a beautiful day.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining me. We totally have to connect and like be friends. So I'll make sure I connect with you. Okay. We'll have everything in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. And man, I just loved this one. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erica.
Wow. What a great episode. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you want more of this goodness, make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications for future podcasts. And if you found value from this, please share it with others. You can visit our website at cwgdigital.com This is Erica Bailey. I am your host, and I will see you next time.